I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Yes or no? Did you ever take banned substances to enhance your cycling performance?
Yes.
I had no prior knowledge of the planned assault on Nancy Kerrigan.
I am deeply sorry for my irresponsible and selfish behavior I engaged in.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Oops, the podcast. I am Giulio. I love you. Thank you for listening. We really appreciate you. I'm joined here today, as always, by my boy, my co-host, the wonderful Francis Ellis. How you doing, Francis?
I'm your boy.
You're my boy.
I'm your little boy.
Do you not use that term when referring to a close friend?
Dude, I do like it. And you know what? The best version of it I ever heard was somebody once said, W-E-B, ya boy.
That's pretty good. Like Du Bois.
Well, W-E-B to boy. Yeah. Who was like, I think a slave leader.
Is it not Dubois?
It might be.
Boy?
Hold on.
I don't know. I've never known the pronunciation of that.
But nobody ever, he was an American sociologist, socialist, historian, civil rights activist, Pan-Africanist, author, writer, and editor. That doesn't help me a whole lot. But yeah, I used to think in AP American history, I thought it was Webb Du Bois, and it's W-E-B. So now my buddy he refers to himself. He's like dude, pretty big night last night for W-E-B, your boy.
That's pretty good, dude. That's pretty fucking good. That's pretty fucking good. You have a nice weekend? What's going on?
Well, kind of. I had to my girlfriend and I we had a day for her.
That's good.
Any
particular occasion?
It's good for her. Yeah, I guess the occasion was that like on Saturday I went golfing and sort of just disappeared all day. And so I felt like I owed her Sunday. And the things that she wanted to do were great. I mean, we went out in the boat. That was really nice. Sweet. And then we went and played tennis. Now, you and I have played tennis before. You know my ability.
You're solid.
I'm solid. My girlfriend is new to the sport.
Mm-hmm. Actually, to clarify, I would say you are very good for a guy who like didn't play like organized. I don't know what your involvement was as a teenager, but like for a guy who didn't play college tennis, I would say you're like very good.
Thank you. I grew up playing racket sports. It was like a big thing in my family because my mom, was pretty involved with college tennis, and so whatever. It was always like the sport I was playing when I wasn't playing sports. Right. If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So I had to teach my girlfriend tennis, and I don't have a whole lot of patience about anything. And I struggled with this, and it made me think that couples, you should not enlist a significant other to teach you a skill that they're good at, where you are starting from the beginning.
Yeah, right.
Do you know what I mean? I
agree. And it's funny because if it's a significant other, for some reason, there's like no level of patience. But if it's your kid, it's the complete opposite.
Absolutely.
It's so interesting.
I was thinking about that. I was like, well, what if the person across the net from me were just, 2 feet shorter and my daughter? I'm sure I would be so encouraging and enjoy. I'd be thinking like, oh, she's going to grow up so fast before I know it, But instead, I was looking across at my girlfriend and being like, why aren't you getting this? Like, what's happening? I'm giving you the blueprint, and it's not clicking or whatever, And now I'm mostly joking. We had a wonderful time, and she's a very quick learner, so I suspect that she will pick up this game and become good, and we'll enjoy it together. That's the goal, right?
That's great.
I really believe that, like, I think Jay-Z or Beyonce once said couples that play together stay together.
Interesting.
I think it was before his whole infidelity thing came out, where he was banging her sister, or Rihanna's sister, or whatever. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I don't remember. I forget the details.
Or maybe it was Beyonce's sister punched him in the face in an elevator, and that
Because
was
he was being
not. I don't think he was hooking up with her. I think he
Right,
was.
with somebody
She
else.
knew that he was
unfaithful.
sleeping around.
Gotcha.
Which, by the way, I mean, is so preposterous. Like Jay-Z, Beyonce is one of the most beautiful women to ever walk the earth.
Right.
And Jay-Z is at best a 3.
Oh, come on. You don't think he's a 3?
Putting aside Jay-Z's accolades, his wealth, his achievement, his financial acumen, if you saw Jay-Z outside of like a deli, you'd be like, that guy is not doing well.
Dude, I don't know, man. I think it's hard to disconnect a guy and his status when it comes to
Okay.
like.
So just a snapshot of Jay-Z's face, right?
Okay, fine. Fair enough.
I don't think he's that handsome of a guy. He doesn't
Less
have a particularly great body, as far as I know.
It's less competitive. Okay.
His bone structure sucks.
He gets better looking with age. I agree with what you're saying, though. Like, just
True.
his face alone is not his strongest asset.
Jay-Z is a butter face and a butter body. He's a butter wallet. That's what he is. Jay-Z's a butter Grammys. Meanwhile, Beyonce, I mean, is yeah, whatever. We know. I mean, she's the most stunning woman, so amazing and all that. So I don't know. The point is, that saying of like, you give a guy steak every night, he's going to get tired of steak or something.
Right.
Jay-Z went out and stepped out on his marriage with Beyonce,
Right.
which is pathetic.
Yeah,
Whatever.
it's too common of a trend in Hollywood relationships of just like the guy with the most gorgeous girl in Hollywood cheating on her with like just the most random person.
Yeah. See, there's a picture of Jay-Z looking.
Thank you, Chris.
Looking poorly.
Well, dude, I think that it would be funny because my girlfriend, I started teaching her. I gave her one lesson last year. It would be funny if we trained our girlfriends and then had them play each other, and we got to like coach them from the side.
And I don't know where your girlfriend is at, but I just think that if we put them on the court together and had them trying to play tennis together, if your girlfriend is where my girlfriend is, there wouldn't be much rallying going on. There'd be a lot of collecting balls.
Right. It would be a little anticlimactic of a match.
You'd need hampers, lots of hampers of balls.
It's funny you say that though. I always hated teaching couples together.
Right.
Because they would do that, and they thought it would be fun, but logistically it's hard because typically one partner is much better than the other one. Occasionally you get one where it's similar, but it's the same as like if a guy and his kid wanted to play together, and what you end up having to do is you end up having to cut the time up. One person waits and the other person plays. Like
Right.
one person picks up the balls or whatever, but it's a really hard thing to kind of cram together.
Right. I do think that tennis, if you're with somebody who is of your commensurate skill level, for a couple, it can be a wonderful like bonding activity.
Totally.
But it's just rare that you find two people who are of the same level of tennis who are dating.
Definitely.
So yeah, so we did that, and then we played cornhole with some neighbors.
Oh, nice.
Which
It's a
was
good
kind of
social distancing
fun.
activity.
Yeah, it was solid. And I don't know, it was a solid weekend. How was your weekend?
It's good. My weekend was good, dude. I mean, I'm less than a week out from seeing my girlfriend. Finally.
How
which
many
is
days?
I think 5 or 6 days. Like I'm going to either go get her. I'm going to get her Saturday or Sunday. It's funny. I posted a picture of myself and her for the first time. It's the first time I've ever posted a picture of us together as a hard post.
Wow.
And dude, the picture crushed.
Isn't that amazing?
It's my best performing Instagram photo yet by far.
Well,
Not by
you guys
far,
both looked
solid.
amazing in the picture. In your
appreciate
defense, a very attractive couple.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
But let me pull it up here. It's amazing. You know, that's true of me too. Anytime I post my girlfriend, and I've only posted her a couple times, but yeah, it always tends to perform very, very well on my Instagram.
Right. And she kind of thinks that she's like, oh, you know, she didn't like necessarily say this, but she understands the idea of me not wanting to post her. And I'm like, I'm not hiding it. Like, you're not a secret. Like, I don't think that like girl fans are going to be turned off by a comedian that has a girlfriend. I think maybe quite the contrary, potentially. You know what I mean? I think we're
Right.
both guys who are good to our girlfriends, and hopefully, like, people appreciate that about us. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. I don't know. I have no idea the
I have no
psychology
fucking idea.
behind that. Well, that's great though, and you'll see each other. Are you an Office fan? Did you watch The Office?
A little bit.
There's a great episode where Pam and Jim haven't seen each other in a while because she's in art school, I think, or working in New York, and the whole office knows exactly the number of days that are left until they're going to see each other again. And everyone keeps coming up and being like, 5 more days. And it's like this creepy office-wide thing of like, they're going to pipe in 5 days and everyone's in on it. It's so funny, dude.
That is funny. I don't have a lock on my door, so I wonder if like that will, if what people in the house are gonna like.
I don't think they'll. I think they're grown up enough probably to not try to like barge in while you guys are, you know, reconnecting. Dude, that's great though. Do you guys have any? She's coming out there to see you.
Yeah, she's gonna come out here and stay here for a little, and then we're gonna kind of figure it out from there. But it should be fun, man.
How long is she staying for?
We don't know yet. Probably not.
Okay.
We're probably not gonna do it for too long. But I imagine that from here on out, we'll probably be like together from now on. I think.
That's great.
But it's funny because, dude, like she works all day. Like she has still been working, and like she's not going to the office. She's working from home, and I'm like out, you know, going on walks and shit. And I'm starting to feel like this funny. We have this funny like relationship balance. Like I'm literally calling her. I'm like, I'm looking at a baby turtle, and she's like, I have to go. I have a call. Like, dude, literally, like the other day, I was thinking about how funny this was because I didn't actually tell this story, but I had this face off with a hawk on a hiking path the other day, which I kind of explained to you guys for a second. But like this hawk was just in the middle of the path. I posted the video on my story of just this hawk, and it was just looking at me like this, but from the side. So then I walked up closer and closer, and it didn't fly away. So then I started walking back. And as I walked back, dude, I'm not kidding you, the hawk squared up at me. It hopped to face me. And I was like, oh my God. And then it started flying, and it kind of like, it takes a while for it to build up momentum, and it starts flying in my direction, and I hide in branches just in case it came at me, and I had a stick. I was going to fight it off. And then it landed and then flew away. And I thought in my head, I was like, wow, my girlfriend is like closing deals for like advertising dollars, and I'm having face-offs with birds.
Birds of prey.
Birds of prey. Like, what a sad reality of life now. You know
Yeah, but dude, in truth, you as a comedian, as a podcaster, as a storyteller, that hike and that encounter with the hawk provides you with the same amount of like, you know, material, and that's like your lead of the day. You know, you're sourcing. So
right, totally. And it's funny you say that because I think coming to terms with that is a very important aspect of being happy living the life that you and I do, knowing so many people that have conventional jobs and like conventional day to day. I sometimes feel isolated knowing that my standoff with the hawk is like part of my job somehow.
Absolutely. But I think the important thing to notice there is that like there are just as many people doing what we do who don't go out looking for hawks to square off with. Do you know what I mean? They just sit and they wait for the hawks to come to them, and they think like, well, you know, I haven't had any good ideas in a while, but yeah, Giulio's lucky. He's running into hawks left and right. Like, we can't all have that. My hawk will come. You know what I mean? Funny, dude, I wanted to. I saw our dear friends Raina Greenberg and Ashley Hesseltine over the weekend.
How are they?
They invited me to. They're well. They're really well. and I hopped on one of their live Instagram shows, or maybe it was on YouTube or something. And Chris was actually facilitating. He was the producer, doing a little freelance work. And you know, I didn't really know. First of all, I didn't even realize that it was for charity. I guess that was my fault. I don't read details very often.
Should that change anything?
It would have changed my approach a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it would have, because I kind of came in and I thought it was just like their fans and they were just doing a fun thing.
Right.
And I was super raw. I came in very raw.
Francis Raw and uncut, baby.
Yeah, dude. I was a red rocket from an excited dog. Just like, that's what I was doing, you know? And basically, first and foremost, my mic wasn't working. So the first like 2 minutes, they were like, wait, what? We can't really, and that,
stressful.
There were 3,800 people watching. And so that is very, it's very panic inducing.
Totally.
When your technical stuff is busted, you feel like, oh shit, this is a nightmare. You know, it's like being in a job interview when your stuff isn't working.
Right.
So that really kind of knocked me off of my game. And then I like logged out and logged back in. And I was like, is that working now? And they were like, oh, it's finally working, whatever. And I was like, oh shit, okay. And I also it was at night, and I had set up the lighting such that the rest of the house was pitch black, but only the ring light was like illuminating me.
Right.
And so it looked like I was a ghost or just like in this dark world, kind of in the woods out of nowhere. And it was very creepy.
Telling scary stories.
Yeah. And then I started getting into like just dark shit. I did a song about how great it is to have a girlfriend that you like enough that if a group of bad guys from Eastern Europe ever killed her, you would like enact revenge and hunt them down.
That's a very noble mission statement.
It is. And I thought it was very romantic, but Ashley was like, you know, there was just a lot of anger. There was a lot of anger in that song. And they have
high stakes.
They have such positive fans. It was such a positive charity thing. And I'm talking about, one of the lines is like, and then I lay my blade upon a flame until the steel glows red, and I carve her name into their necks out of deference to the dead.
That's a great line.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, and it's not so much romantic as it is violent and perverted in a way. So it just was a little bit of a left turn, I think, in the show. Mateo was the guest right before me,
right.
And he's up there. He's so handsome and charming, and he's got this great laugh. And then I come on and sing about hunting down Eastern Europeans like Liam Neeson. And
so wait, are there live comments during this?
There may have been. I think they have like a Facebook group that has an active.
Chris is saying
thing.
yes.
So Chris, you could see, okay, yeah. So I don't want to know what those comments were. Honestly, I'm sure this is the way I roll, dude. I'm sure half the comments or way more than half the comments were like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. I did not know this was going to happen. I didn't know you were bringing a complete sociopath onto this lovely charity show that I just donated to. And then there were probably a handful of people who were like, this is right up my alley. I needed this, you know?
Right.
So I'm playing to those folks.
Love it.
That
dude.
4%.
Good. So were you like stressed out about this at any point? Like,
look, I don't want to ever hurt their brand. I mean, I love those girls so much. They've done so much for me. I love what they've built. I love their audience. I work with them a lot. And the last thing I would ever want is to come on their show and do it a disservice.
Right.
And I was very worried that I had done that. I was very worried that I had like lowered the bar, or that I had served as some sort of, you know, kind of weird spot on an otherwise great night of comedy for girls got to eat and it's fans. But I think in the end, Ashley and Raina kind of assured me like, it wasn't so bad. So
It's good.
I calmed down the next day, but I was pretty tense that night. Yeah. Chris, come in. What was your impression of the whole thing?
I mean, I thought it was funny, but I'm like not the audience, I'm.
Yeah. I
don't
think
know. I was laughing.
Dude, they said they were like, do you have any revelations or do you want to spill some tea on anything? I think that was the thing they were asking everybody. And I said, well, do you remember when I got fired for Barstool for writing about that dead girl? And then I apologized and said I never knew. And I was like, I knew the whole time that she was dead. And that was the wrong thing to say. I mean,
That's not true, though, right? You're joking.
Not at all. Of course not. It was not true. No. I would be basically sewering my entire livelihood if I were being honest about that. It just was not funny, and I don't know. I was going for gasps. Like,
what does spill the tea mean? It means like tell a secret.
Yeah, give us some dirt. Give us some dirt.
Also, you said right before that song, you were like, "I love just sucking the room out."
Yes, because one time, Giulio, they called me and they FaceTimed me while they were doing a live show in LA in front of 1,500 people at a theater, and it was the day Kobe passed away.
Oh my God.
And they were like, Francis, how are you? We're here in LA. And their fans were all like, woo! And they were like, what's going on? What are you up to? And I was like, oh my God, I'm just still reeling from the news of Kobe's passing. Did you guys hear about that? And it's like the worst thing that you could have brought up in that time.
That's a bad thing to bring up.
But and then they hung up. They're like, oh my God. But it's not funny really to anyone but me, unfortunately. So and I'm not saying Kobe's death was funny. I'm saying that in that moment. But I gotta learn a little better to just learn to play along a little bit better, I think.
That's all right, dude.
Yeah.
It could have been much worse.
Yeah. But speaking of Barstool, I wanted to, someone asked us about the cancer story, and I wanted to tell you this story. Are you not familiar with this story?
I'm not. No.
All right. So this is the craziest thing that's happened in my career by far. When I was applying for Barstool, I was applying through this game show that they had set up called Barstool Idol, and it was a week-long contest, kind of like The Apprentice, where people auditioned, and then if you got passed into the week, every day they would eliminate someone at the end of the day in front of a Facebook Live audience of thousands of people. And during the day, we would compete and do these tasks, writing blogs, going on treasure hunts, doing all kinds of weird stuff, and trying to prove your value as to why. At the end, the person who won was going to win a job at Barstool.
Right.
And as you guys know, I ended up winning the whole week. That's how I got my job, whatever. But 2 months before this, I had a surgery on my throat because I'd had polyps removed that were on my vocal cords that were making me very, very hoarse. I'd been hoarse for a year.
Oh, wow.
And it was super bad. Have you ever had this?
I don't know. I hope not.
How
it's hoarse?
To the point where if I went out for a night of drinking or even to a loud restaurant and had to talk loudly, for 2 or 3 days after that, I would be hoarse.
I know people who that happens to, but it's never happened to me.
And it would get to the point where if there was a particularly bad night, if I had to perform a weekend of headlining and I would sing in my act, then after the Saturday night late show, it would take me a week before I could really talk again.
Wow.
And it was just it was setting me back and really getting in my way. And so actually I say that I don't think I was headlining yet because that was all before Barstool. So whatever, I was just hoarse all the time and it sucked. So I went in to an ear, nose, and throat doctor, an otolaryngologist or something, I think they're called, whatever, named Dr. Wu up at the Mount Sinai Hospital. He's a renowned guy. And he told me that I had polyps. We had a surgery scheduled. He removed them. Pretty easy surgery. He scrapes the polyps off the vocal cords very gently. And whenever they take something out of your body in a surgical procedure, they biopsy it, kind of just like
for good medicine, as a doctor once told me.
Yeah, they always want us to make sure that the things that they've taken out of your body are good to go. And so that happened like, I don't know, a month, maybe 3 or 4 weeks before I had my Barstool Idol week begin. So I go in on the Monday, almost get eliminated, scrape by. On Tuesday, we had to like write blogs, something. I started to like actually distinguish myself. And I think it was on Wednesday in the middle of the day that I got a call from Dr. Wu, from his assistant. And she said, we need you to come into the office right now. And I was like, I can't, under no circumstances can I do that, because I'm at Barstool and like I'm being ushered around from task to task in front of all these people. And this is like my big job interview for a potentially career changing break. And they were like, listen, you need to come in. We have some news that we need to tell you. And I was like, oh, fuck.
Jesus.
So I get on the subway and I go up to Mount Sinai Hospital and I go into his office. And
are you panicking the whole time on the train?
Yeah, because when a doctor tells you that you have to come in that day.
Right. You're like, fuck.
You're like, what is this? My mind went to cancer.
Of course. Yeah.
Immediately. You know what I mean? Like that's what it went to. And then I walked in and my doctor sat me down and he was like, so we took the biopsy results came back from what we thought were the polyps that we removed from your throat. And it turns out that they showed signs of cancerous malignancies.
Wow.
And we are now under the impression that they were not polyps, but they were actually small tumors on your throat. And I was kind of like stunned, but also kind of like, well, you know, I had prepared myself for really bad news on the ride up there. And I was also just, things were moving so fast that week at Barstool that I didn't have time to like really process it.
Right.
But I was like, all right, so what do I do? And they were like, well, you know, we're going to have to send them. The doctor had said, he said to me, he was like, in my 30 years of being an ear, nose, and throat doctor, I've never been more surprised by a test result, because when he took it out of my throat, he thought it looked like a normal polyp. And, you know, he didn't think it showed signs of being a tumor. So he was very surprised when these results came back. But he said, even so, we need to do further testing to make sure that the cancer hasn't metastasized. We need to find out if it's, you know, spread. We need to figure out what we're dealing with here. So, you know, just hang tight. We're going to send the samples out to California to a clinic to do more testing. And I was like, okay, Jesus Christ. I then, you know, got into a cab to head back to Barstool, and I called my parents to let them know. And I think I started crying a little bit, because I was like, Mom, Dad, like, I just got this news that I have like cancerous malignancies in my throat that they took out, and I'm freaking out. And they were like, okay, whatever, we'll figure it out. But then I got out of the cab at Barstool and I went upstairs, and that someone grabbed me. And they were like, we've been looking for you. Where the fuck have you been? You have to go in and do a KFC radio test segment right now.
Oh my
and I was
God.
like, okay, Jesus. And I go in to the radio room and I sit down with Kevin Clancy, and I'm so shaken from the news that I've just gotten that I'm like wearing it on my face, and I can't really fathom what's going on, and none of it seems to make any sense. And he goes, dude, are you all right? And I was like, I don't know, man. I just got some pretty heavy news at the doctor. And he goes, you're not about to tell me that you have cancer, are you?
Oh my God.
And I went, I think so. Yeah. And he goes, what? And then I had to tell that story on the radio, right?
Oh
so
my
God. That happened on Wednesday in the middle of the day of my Barstool Idol audition.
Oh my God.
And at the end of that day, they had their elimination thing, and they played the tapes from everyone's. At that point, there were only like 5 people remaining in the contest, and they played the tapes from everyone's test radio segment, and everyone else was like talking about sports and stuff. And then I come out, and it's like, here's the ginger, candidate kid Francis revealing on air that he has cancer.
Oh my God.
And it was like a huge story. It was a big deal, obviously. And look, in hindsight, I should have been a lot more guarded. I shouldn't have said anything because I didn't know what the deal was yet. But I was just so flung into things, and I was so whatever. So I get past that day. I end up winning the whole thing. I get my job at Barstool. And then Dave was like, and now you're the cancer kid. So like, it's going to be tough for me not to make fun of that. And I was like, no problem. I should add that on Friday, on the last day, when it was down to me and one other kid, I made these like songs and went out and did like a Man on the Street video where I was doing like spoofs of popular pop songs where I'd rewritten the lyrics to say something about how I had cancer.
Right.
Kind of like Tom Green when he did the like, I've got cancer in my nuts thing. I don't know if you remember that.
Right. I remember that.
And it was probably the piece of work that I put out that like pushed me over the top to win the whole contest.
Wow.
So I'm working at Barstool for like 2 or 3 weeks.
And how are you feeling this whole time, by the way? Like during the day, are you fine? When you go to bed, you're like, I have cancer?
I was so like, I didn't have time to think about it because Barstool was such an enormous change in my life. I had gone from being a tutor and a stand-up comic who was doing late night at the comic strip 4 nights a week and like bar shows. And all of a sudden I was picking up like 2,000 Instagram followers, a day. People are starting to like be like, everyone's wishing me well and hoping that I beat cancer.
Oh my God.
And it was like I was also putting out really good work very, very quickly at Barstool. I was blogging well. I was making these This Is Barstool parody commercials, kind of like the This Is SportsCenter commercials.
Right.
And so I had become like a popular figure pretty quickly to the fan base.
You're a young star.
Yeah. And also you're never going to like dislike the kid who comes in and is battling cancer right off.
I mean, it's everyone's favorite kid.
Yeah. So I'm there for a couple weeks and I'm just like, trying to like stay afloat and whatever. My parents are involved with the cancer stuff to the extent that they got the test results sent back to like our family doctors in Maine. And we're trying to get them to like help us figure it out. And our good friend who's an oncologist here in Maine was looking at this and being like, this doesn't make much sense to me either. But they were still waiting for the stuff to come back from the clinic in San Francisco.
Right.
And then one Friday, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks into my time at Barstool, I got a phone call from Dr. Wu's office. And it was his, head assistant. And she said, we've got some great news. We did DNA testing of the samples that came back cancerous, and they showed feminine DNA signs. And it turned out they had tested a woman's samples and then mislabeled them as mine.
Whoa.
And apparently this is actually like more common than you'd think.
Oh my God, that's horrible news.
That
dude.
slides in the labs at these hospitals get mislabeled and switched because so many of them come in, and you're talking about microscopic.
Right.
Or, shit.
Jesus.
So I'm sitting there. I basically just get the news that I've effectively been cured of cancer.
Oh my God.
And I want to like jump and celebrate, but I'm also aware that I'm at Barstool and I've seen how things go there. And I'm like, I had about probably a minute or two of being super relieved and super happy before the reality set in that this was going to look bad.
Right. It was going to look like you did this to try to win the competition.
Exactly. And
Oh
I
my
hadn't
God.
even thought that far, just that like miraculously I'd been cured of cancer. And so I had the idea to keep this woman on the phone, and I called a buddy of mine over and I was like, dude, I need you to listen to this really quick. And I put the phone on speaker and I said, can you just say that one more time? And she was like, yep, no problem. And she was like, I'm so-and-so from Mount Sinai Hospital. And we just want to let you know, like, we found out that we tested the wrong sample. Your lab was sample. It looks like you're fine.
Oh my
And
God.
it was a Friday afternoon and everyone who was there started clapping. And it was like,
wow,
an amazing moment. It was an amazing moment. Before the clapping had even subsided, this guy named Nate had run to his laptop and was writing a blog, Ginger Francis faked cancer to win Barstool Idol.
Oh my God.
And he published that blog before any of the, before I could say anything.
Oh my God.
And of course, Dave reads it. And Dave was like, he was somewhere else. He was down in Atlanta preparing for the Super Bowl or something. And classic Barstool, regardless of what the facts were, it was a far funnier, far more interesting story that Francis would have faked cancer to win a job at Barstool.
Wow.
And then they started spinning it that I was a sociopath, like what kind of monster would do this? Now, meanwhile, I'm writing my own take of the blog. And what I did was I had a copy of the biopsy report from Mount Sinai lab, with all the language, the letterhead, the signatures of my doctor, and the whole medical report being like, samples came back, cancerous malignancies, blah, 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 like the medical wording, all of that. So I scanned that and then I included that in my blog, which was probably like not a great idea. Well,
wait, why?
Just because I'm including the names of real doctors and like, this is private medical information. My family had been like saddened by this and we'd been dealing with it. And it was like so personal to me, but I didn't know what else to do.
You needed to clear your name.
Yeah. So I include all that. I write the whole story of what had happened. I even included, because I had asked Dr. Wu to call my parents to explain to them, since I didn't really understand it as well, if he could explain to them what we were dealing with. And he left them a voicemail. And so I had actually managed to include the audio from his voicemail to my parents diagnosing me with cancer or having found, the cancerous tumors in my throat. And any normal person reads that, sees that blog, and they're like, oh yeah, okay, he didn't fucking fake cancer, whatever.
Right.
But there were just enough Barstool fans who either thought it was more entertaining to believe Dave's narrative or just are just like angry people or something. I don't really know why, but they, from that day forward and for a long time, I was the kid who had faked cancer.
Unbelievable, bro.
To get a job at Barstool. And it came up for years. The whole time, and it kind of like slowly died away once people realized I wasn't like actually a fucking psychopath. But that's always something that I'll get whenever anyone trolls come at me or something, they'll just be like, this kid, fuck you, you faked cancer. What kind of monster?
Dude.
And so that's always been something, dude. The last relationship I was in, my ex-girlfriend's sister was dating this guy, and he didn't like me because he was Orthodox Jewish, and her family was Jewish, and he didn't like the idea that anyone in their family would date someone who was not Jewish.
Oh, man.
And he tried to convince not only his girlfriend, but my girlfriend by extension, that I had faked cancer.
Oh my God.
So
dude.
he like seized upon this thing to try to discredit me and out me, get me kicked out of the family or something.
Oh my God.
And it was a pretty nasty like chapter in my career that I had to kind of like just weather.
Dude, you could have fucking filed a lawsuit. I know
So
that's
people have brought that up, and there were a few reasons I didn't even really look into it. One, it seemed crazy to me to sue a hospital for telling me that I didn't have cancer. That just seemed like bad karma.
Totally.
And then two, if anyone had a case, it's actually the woman.
I wanted to ask about that. 100%. They told her she didn't have it, and she did.
Dude, either she had cancer, right? And then like, I don't know if my slide went to her, if it was like a perfect swap, right? But let's presume that it was. Either she had cancer, got my test results, and doctors were like, we don't know what happened here, but it's a medical miracle. You're cured.
Oh my God.
And then for a month, she lived her life under that thought. Or only to find out that she like still had it, right? Or she didn't have cancer. Oh, how does it work? It's either that she did have cancer or she didn't have cancer. Or she didn't have cancer, got my slides, no problem, and then found out a month later than she should have that she actually had cancer.
Right.
And with something like that, you want to fight it as quickly as possible. Yeah, in both cases, it's bad. Yeah.
Jesus, bro, that is so frustrating.
So it's something I don't really talk about much because I've just learned that like the less I bring it up, I mean, I'm not going to convince these people who are crazy and unwilling to look at a biopsy report from Mount Sinai Hospital or, whatever. They're just going to ignore it and live their conspiracy theory.
This is before the fake news era too, dude.
Yeah.
Quote unquote fake news era.
Exactly. So it's something I don't talk about because like I whatever. I don't want to. It's not a very pretty part of my life. But at the same time, every once in a while it comes up, and it is kind of a fascinating, like weird web of shit that happened, and something that I had to like really fight to climb out from under in the first month of my time at my new job.
Right.
So I don't know. That's my story.
Tremendous oops on the part of the lab, dude. And it's scary. And you hear about misdiagnoses and all this stuff, like, and this sucks because it's like, if you definitely have something in your head, you might be like, well, maybe they just fucked up. You know what I mean? Right. They probably didn't. Like I've never heard of this happening.
No.
And I'm sure it does happen, but it's crazy.
Yeah, the doctor told me, and what he said to me, like once it all came out, he was like, I knew that there was something amiss here because they did not look like tumors to me, and he said that it does happen more often than you'd think, which is not pretty fucking crazy, dude. Like that news is so earth shattering to anybody,
right? Dude.
So I don't know. Look, I take fault in that I should never have told KFC that quickly what had just happened to me. I should have waited and kept it private. But
dude, come on. You were almost late for the interview because of it.
Yeah.
And you're being honest. I mean, dude, you stood out because of it. And you should have. You were told whether or not you had it, you were told you did.
By a doctor.
It sounds like, bro, it sounds like these people who are coming at you, these are the kind of people who are just going to do that no matter what, maybe.
Exactly. You
know, what incentive is there to just, when you're literally, and it doesn't even matter. It's not like you're the president. You're just a guy who works at a fucking radio station or whatever, and you're showing them proof that you didn't make it up.
Yeah.
What more do they want?
Exactly. There's just a lot of people out there that you're never gonna please, who want to believe their own version of things, and It's fine.
Cat Williams said it, dude. It's like if you have 14 haters today, I'm paraphrasing, but if you have 14 haters and you don't have 15 come summer, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So anyway, one of the many, by the way, the next thing, like maybe a week after that shit went down with me, was when I DM'd the Sports Illustrated swimsuit models. I don't know if you ever heard that story, and I won't tell it today, but I asked, this woman out, or
I know the story.
Yeah, Danielle Harrington. I asked her out.
I don't know. I knew about a different one, but okay, sorry.
Yeah, I asked this girl out on the date because we'd had a segment together, and I said, asked her if she wanted to go boxing sometime. Just DM'd her, and then Portnoy got wind of it and told them that I had faked cancer.
Oh my God.
And then it like turned into a huge story that Francis was like shooting his shot with these, Sports Illustrated swimsuit models. And it was, I don't know, all of that happened within the first 5 weeks. It was a trial by fire there that was so intense. And so, I don't know how I fucking finally made it through. And it eventually it calmed down, but man, it was a crazy first month or so at
fucking
that job.
Nuts, man.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, you got anything else?
Well, first of all, I want to give a shout out to Elijah's Extreme Gourmet Sauces.
Hell yeah.
They sent us some real hot and spicy. That ghost pepper sauce will kick your ass. So if you guys like some hot sauce, go check it out.
Some heat, baby. It really does. Yeah. But it's delicious. As you can see, I've been eating all of them. Look at these bottles are like half empty. So I'm
enjoying them too. Also, I was thinking, I noticed that we're getting listeners from all over the world, like most of the countries in the world. And I would be curious to see, and I imagine you would too, Francis, to see if you think you're listening from a place that we would find unique and interesting. We would love to hear about your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially Sweden. I'd like to talk to some people from Sweden right now about the herd immunity and the approach that they've taken to fighting the coronavirus. It is such an outlier how they've gone about things. And I want to hear from that. So please, if you're from Sweden and you're an Oops listener, DM us or email us at Oops the Podcast is our Instagram. oopsthepodcast@gmail.com is our email. We would like to talk to you and get a sense of how things are in the most beautiful country on earth.
Sweet.
Awesome, anything else? I feel like that's pretty good for today. I'm sorry I took up so much time with that fucking story.
Oh, dude, it's a great story. I'm sorry. I mean, I brought it up because someone had mentioned it to us in DMs, and I didn't know that there was all this trauma associated. So I'm sorry for digging that back up.
I'm glad we're out in front, and
and hopefully you're glad that I had never heard the story.
Yeah. It's always refreshing to me when I'm starting fresh with people. And Giulio texted me an email, and he goes, "Cancer story?" ? And I was like, "Oh boy, here we go. Have I got a tale for you?"
Awesome, man.
You guys are the best. We're Oops the Podcast. We'll be back on Thursday. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great week.
Bye-bye.